'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Take it, Russ. Fa la 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 la.
Where do you think you're going? Nobody's walking out on this fun, old-fashioned family Christmas.
Clark, I think it's best if everyone just goes home before things get worse.
Thank God we're all right.
Clark, we're stuck under a truck.
Do you honestly think I don't know that?
That thing had 9 lives. She just spent them all.
Woo! Going for a new amateur recreational saucer sled land speed record, Clark W. Griswold.
All right,
Jr.
there you go. Some of the highlights from a movie that has become literally a holiday classic, and I'm not using that word loosely. It's hard to believe it's been 35 years since National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation was released. So we're talking 1989. And we are lucky enough to have the director of that film, Jeremiah Chechik, on the line right now. I just trying to go back now all the way, if I can, to 1989. Am I right? This was your directorial debut, Jeremiah?
It was my directorial debut, vis-a-vis certainly in feature film.
Right.
I'd been doing commercials before, and shooting commercially globally. So the experience of being on a set and wrangling massive amount of effects people and performance was not something absolutely new, but certainly working in a kind of a grand studio format was new.
By the way, I will let people know you're from Montreal. You were born here, right?
Still am born in Montreal. Yeah.
How long were you here before? I mean, you talk about doing commercial work. I'm going to guess most of that, even here, was probably out of Toronto, or did you have a lot of work in Montreal?
No, very, very little. I left Montreal, I think, in 70, 71, around the crise d'octobre, and I went to Toronto.
Okay.
I didn't know very many people there, worked in theater, and started shooting commercially, then as a photographer. Then I kind of was, I went to Europe and worked as a commercial fashion photographer for Italian Vogue, came back to New York, where I started directing commercials, and from then to LA.
That's quite a varied career. I'm curious, though, just to go back, and I know not everybody who starts, directing films has started in the film business, and you're obviously one of those people. Had you always thought that film was where you wanted to end up?
No. Growing up in Montreal at that time, there were no film schools then. And in order to direct any kind of film, whether it was a documentary or kind of animation, was really in the purview of the NFB. And to
Right.
work within the NFB at that time, not sure how it is now, one had to be sort of a made man, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I had no in there, and I did study theater, and I was very kind of focused on theater performance. Certainly was interested in film. I kind of studied music, and I knew how to read and write music. I was certainly captivated by photography, and it evolved. I always just put one foot in front of the other and just try to be creative every day. So
I'm curious how these things come together. So you have this varied background, and obviously you'd moved to the States by that point. How did you end up on National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? What was the process? Who approached you? What happened?
Well, it started when one of my commercials had been noticed by Stanley Kubrick.
Wow.
And, I had read an interview with him in the New York Times. He was promoting a film, and he had mentioned that his favorite American filmmaking was specifically some beer commercials. And I was reading this on a plane from, I think, New York to LA, and I went, oh, my God, I directed those.
Which beer? I'm curious. No, I have to know, which beer brand was it? What was the commercial?
I'm going to think maybe it was The Night Belongs to Michelob, those things. I'm going back now.
Yes.
But they were kind of stylistically very kind of hip for the time, and kind of engaged. And I've been getting a lot of work and notice. And not long after that, I got a phone call from No other than Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy, who invited me to Amblin at Universal.
Yeah.
And I had just really moved from New York, and I went, oh, why did I take so long to move? This is great. I'll move and get a call. I went in and we discussed, what did I want to do and where I thought I would be in film, and began developing a film for Warner Brothers. I got to know them quite well for Amblin and Warner's on the Apollo Theater, of all things. And it was a musical-based piece. I wanted to do it quite intimately, small. I had a very kind of a unique approach at the time in terms of the style of it and the kind of overall tone and kinetics. And I had gotten to know the people, as I said, at Warner Brothers pretty well. But at some point, Terry Semel, who was running Warner Brothers at the time, said, why are we making a little movie? Let's make a big movie with movie stars. And I really felt that the story that I was moving forward in development wouldn't work with movie stars because it was really about unknowns, and the whole dramatic tension was whether or not people would be successful. And so unknowns was the way to go. And so I backed away from that, and they went and they did do development, but a few years later they had circled back. But by that time, the Apollo had become much more of a commercial viability. And so it wasn't as interesting, it wasn't as mysterious. But once I backed away, they started to send me scripts. And, so I would be reading these, and none really appealed to me. And this is Warner Brothers. So one of the things they sent to me was Christmas Vacation that John Hughes had written. And, I had never really done any comedy at all, whether it was kind of light comedy commercials or whatnot. My stuff was very kind of visual oriented and kind of sexy and monochrome and all the things. Christmas Vacation is not. But, as a DGA member, I, of course, pay homage to Billy Wilder, Leo McCarey, Preston Sturges, Howard Hawks. These are all like just mentors, idols of mine who came before me. And they had all done in one form or another, screwball comedies, straight-up comedies, as well as other things. So I thought, well, if these guys could have a varied career doing comedy one week and a romance the next week and a war movie the next week or the next year, I could do that. So I plunged in. I met John Hughes, and we got on super well. And he was, he taught me just a ton of mimetic chops because he was just a master in terms of writing. We began to work on his script. This was in '88, and then the studio offered me the role. I think there was a director before me that was being considered, Chris Columbus, a wonderful director.
Yeah.
But he and Chevy didn't get along very well. This is way before the film went into pre-production, really. I think Chris shot some tests in Chicago that I ended up using as second unit. But we built the sets. I cast the movie. I organized it, and off we went. So
good for you.
That was really the beginning of it.
I'm going to run out of time. I will ask the question that, of course, a lot of people will ask. You do a movie. Nobody knows going into a movie how big or how successful or how not successful it might become. So here is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation 35 years later. You could never have imagined that it would become as successful as it has. What do you think that's owing to?
Well, I would assume it has to do with the fact that it is a kind of a universal theme about family, about obsession, and how one can go too far in one's desires that it turns back on itself. So I think there's a kind of a universality of it, and I think in terms of what I was trying to do when I was making the movie is not to work to any kind of contemporary at that moment visual or tonal instincts, that I would go for a very classic feeling, Currier and Ives, just that was very, quote, Americana, and focused my attention on, and this is going to sound really pretentious and horrible, so forgive me, but on the emotional beats of Clark, who's, pretty funny in the piece, but it all is focused on his failure to deliver.
Yeah.
And the frustration he felt, and I think everyone can. If I was going to be successful, it was because I tapped in to the emotional connection rather than the comedic reactions, which I felt very strongly and confident in because of the script, but the kind of weaving of the underpinning of the foundation of the emotion within the family to find those moments was something that I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, that kind of started this film on its kind of long run.
Amazing. Now you're going to be in town. We have to wrap up. You're going to be in town next week. There'll be a special series of screenings of the movie at Club Soda, both in English and in French, on December 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And on the 22nd, you will be here. You're going to do a Q&A with the audience about the movie. Is that the idea?
That's the idea.
Great. That's great.
I think it's, the Le Sapin des Boules is the French title of the movie. I've never seen a dubbed version of the movie.
Oh, this should be fun.
I
Okay.
have no idea what to expect, but Club Soda is great, and evidently it's been kind of perennial. And I just look forward to the chaos, the circus of it, and enjoying it with an audience, because I don't go back and look at my own movies, certainly not with an audience.
Well, you're about to do that now. Jeremy Chechik, he will be here in town, Club Soda. If you want to know more, you can check it out on their website, December 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Very, very nice meeting you and chatting. I very much appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Jeremy Chechik. So remember, National Lampoon's Christmas movie coming up 35 years later, and this thing is still one of the biggest Christmas movies of all.